everybody, welcome to another Sunday with DKW. I'm back in the studio and I have my lovely Sam with me.
Hi, Jem.
Sam.
So looking forward to today. We have a beautiful panelist
I'm telling you,
with us today too.
Today's show is about problematic relationships. It's a bit of a spicy one.
Yes, it is.
I'm telling you, have you ever encountered a problematic relationship? It could be at work or with a partner or friends where they've gone slightly sour and you've become frenemies, or it could be the in-laws or family members. Well, that's what we're going to be discussing on today's DKW show, and I've got my lovely panelists with me. Hi, panel. Hi. How are you today? Everyone's like in unison. Hi. Problematic relationships. This is what we're going to discuss today. But before I get into it, I'm going to let you introduce yourselves one by one. So I'm going to start with our lovely lady on the end. What's your name?
Hi, I'm Bianca.
Nice to meet you, Bianca. And
And I'm Derek.
okay.
Hi there, Derek.
I'm Parveen. Hi there.
Hi, Parveen.
I'm Shad, hello.
Hi,
Hi,
Shao.
Shad.
I'm Diane.
Hi, Diane.
I'm Krystal.
Hi, Krystal.
And I'm Sabine. Hi.
Hi,
Sabine. So now that we've introduced ourselves, problematic relationships. Before we delve into it, I want to ask you guys, what would you say? Actually, I'm going to ask every single one of you. I'm going to be mean, so no one's singled out. I'll start with you, Diana.
Okay.
What would you say is the most important relationship in your life right now?
With my husband.
Your husband. So you're married.
I am,
Husband.
yes.
Okay. Crystal.
With my
son.
With my son.
Okay. So your mummy.
I'm a mummy.
Sabine.
I would always say my mother, because we were so close, but unfortunately she's not here, but she's still with me. I talk about it all the time. But now it would be my fiance. I'm getting married in 4 months, so it would definitely be him.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I'd have to say with my family, definitely.
Your family as well?
Yeah.
Okay.
I would say my family too. At this very moment, it has to be my family.
Cool.
Well, I would actually say my husband, Imran, and also my family, because I deem that my bigger family.
I'll just say my family and my really close friends.
Okay. Sure. So Sam,
So glad to hear you said mention some friends
do you know?
as well.
But Sam, I know you've got some stats, and I want to throw it at the
Yeah.
panel, and I want to find out what do they think, because probably there's
Right.
someone who's out there who's going to be watching the show thinking, look, I'm in one of your categories right now and I've got a problematic relationship and I have absolutely no idea whatsoever how I'm going to solve and resolve this relationship. So what do I do?
I mean, before I want to get to our stats, which I will get to them, I just want to throw out a question of, have any of you really had a relationship that you have found it so hard, you've really struggled to maintain that relationship?
Yeah.
Most people, you all saying that.
Is there anyone who would be brave enough to speak about
To
it?
give us,
Well, my actually the most difficult relationship I've ever had was actually with one of my best female friends.
really?
Yeah, which was,
Yes.
and I always say this, and a lot of girls will agree with me, that a woman as a friend can hurt you more sometimes than even a man, because sometimes you lay yourself out,
Yes,
say
very
every
open.
personal detail of yourself. And so when that was probably the most, if I think back of any relationship, I've had good and bad relationships, which I think you need. I think you do have to have a couple of bad ones to realise you've got a great one.
That's
I mean,
true.
some people will meet someone just out of school and that's a gorgeous story, but it doesn't happen very often. But that was that one girl that, it was a shock because I gave so much to her.
You trusted in her.
Yeah, and the funny thing is now, years and years later, she kind of really realises, but for me, I'm like, hello, and I'm still nice to her.
That's cool. At least you were low and didn't say hello, goodbye.
Definitely, yeah. If I'd seen her within 6 months, it wouldn't have been a hello, it would have been a hello. And I always think that it takes a bigger person to forgive someone.
That's
and
right,
I
I totally
felt
agree
kind
with
of,
that.
in some way, she missed out as well. And I wish her the best, but I just wouldn't put myself
Back into that relationship.
again. And all people are surrounding me now aren't walking time bombs, they're all the same, and it's great.
It's interesting because people are different, aren't they? And
Yeah.
I don't think you're going to get on with everyone
No.
you meet in your life.
Yeah, of course.
We'll get back to the stats now, right? So let's read it here. It says, a review of 148 studies found that people with strong social relationships are 50% less likely to die prematurely.
Wow. So I read that. I kind of reacted before you finished reading it.
Wow.
Okay. Yeah,
That's
strange.
number one. Anyone? Any comments?
Oh,
Any agreements with that?
Well, I think it must be because in theory, you're living a happier life because you're forming better relationships. You're more nourished as a person and you're having more warmth. So hopefully that effectively helps your well-being and health, doesn't it? So I would like to think, what do you think, Sabine?
Yeah, definitely. Well, for me, I've read quite a few things. I love everything to do with psychology and relationships, and I do it every day. We were talking about it in the dressing room.
Yeah, we were.
But they say that men, this is a true statistic, live longer and with a wife. More than women. It's funny. It's with the statistics and
They're a lot happier and a lot more satisfied.
Exactly, and you hear of couples that might pass away and then the other one goes straight after.
Yeah.
And it's just amazing. They go at the same time, and it's amazing. And there was nothing wrong with them.
That is
I've actually got
unbelievable.
that. That's actually happened in my family.
Really? In your own personal
My
life?
mother and her identical twin.
Really?
And there was nothing. My mother was riddled with breast, cervical, and lymph node cancer. And being a mirror twin that went to boarding school, separated from their husband the same year, had business. So I was brought up by two mums, and they used to both tell me off, and I'd be like, "You might look like my mum, but you're not my mum." No, they're absolutely gorgeous. But she passed away soon after, really tragically. And it was like her arm was taken. It's amazing. It's the same with couples have been together a very long time. We're like animals, really. We need affection. We need interaction.
Nurturing.
We need
Yes. Anyway, we're back to number 2. It says committing to a life partner can add 3 years to your lifespan.
So she hit that one on the nail. And the last one?
And a survey by the National Bureau of Economical Research of 5,000 people found that doubling your group of friends has the same effect on your well-being as 50% increase in your income.
Would you guys agree with that? Having more friends means you have more money.
Yes and no.
Diane's face is like,
I can't work that one out. More friends, more socialising, more money being spent.
More money being spent, what do you think?
I think one of the things, you would be spending more money, but what I think, and this is how I've been brought up because we're in small businesses, so it's really funny, I would buy off the hairdresser would buy off me, then I'd buy off the shoe repairman, the shoe repair would buy for his wife. And so it's kind of like that with friends. You can kind of be networking and helping each other, and maybe, like even I'm getting married, one of the girls is a hair and makeup artist, so she's doing all my hair and makeup. And then being a model, I get a photographer. And so I think maybe you could all work together like that and help each other. But I think it means going out more as well.
Or maybe you just have to have the right circle of friends. Maybe you're meant to have more wealthy friends that will then help you nourish that circle. But Sabine, I like your idea. Good networking, good friends, keep the connections going, and obviously develop your business connections. But perhaps somebody else has got an interesting friend, Derek.
Well, I was really surprised by that stat, but I suppose it depends on the circle of friends that you have.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're around people that are very, very, successful, or they're very, very ambitious, that can increase your ambition a lot.
Yeah, it's a good
And
point.
it's really down to the kind of friends that you have, I believe. So that can be true, depending on the friends you keep.
Very true point.
Thank you.
Yeah, friends can motivate you, definitely. That's
Bianca,
right.
what do you think? I can see you looking lovely and glam in your pink dress in the corner. Yeah, looking glamorous, love it.
Thank you. I just completely agree. It's to do with your friendship group. As in, I think with any relationship, it can drain you sort of energetically, or it can kind of feed you energy. And if you've got a healthy group of friends who are successful and they're ambitious, then it makes you want it as well.
I like that key word, healthy friends. I think that's really important that you, our viewers, we really think about the type of friends that we choose. And I think that word healthy is really, really important.
But not just looking into friendship groups and stuff like that, what would you say in terms of family and in the working environment? Do you think having a good set of friends in your working environment can be a plus for you or a negative? Because I can see you nodding your head, but I'm gonna be honest. I remember I used to work for a hedge fund, and sometimes having too many friends could be quite dangerous. dangerous, especially if you've got good clientele working alongside of you, because they can, if they were really, really malicious, they could steal some of your clients away from you. So what would be your thoughts then in the working environment or even in the family group? Because some people might argue, well, it's the reverse in the family because my family just asks me for money all the time and they never ever give me anything. What would be your thoughts on that?
Well, for me, we had family businesses. My mum put me into business when I was 17, and my mum had a chain of clothing stores. And I've always modelled since I was a kid, but she put me into business, and she used to say to me, I wish I had triplets, because no one would work as hard as I would, or my mother or my auntie in the shops. So even if we had someone who was a very close friend of mine, who loved me to bits, who I could trust, and knew she wasn't going to steal or do anything, and she still would make not even 10% of what we would make, because it's your business.
Exactly.
So I think if you can get a family business, but they can also, with a family business, you can have an argument, you go home, you're still friends the next day. So I think family business can really work. Or they don't.
Or the total opposite.
So sorry, and I also know another group of friends who are very successful, and the children are the ones that whittle the money away, which happens a lot. So the grandparents have started this amazing business, given it to their children, and then the younger generation who aren't quite as motivated have dwindled the money.
What does the boys say about that?
Well, I'm one of those believers who really, really think that business and friendship is really hard to mix. I have a way of working myself.
Yeah.
At work, I have this thing in my mind where I say, I'm here to do my job. I'm very polite and very professional. If I build a friendship with somebody, that's a plus, but at the same time, it's not nothing that I'm looking for, because I think it can become very dangerous. Because when you start to build friendships at work, sometimes it can lead to complacency. That complacency could lead to you not performing well, and then it can start a whole load of problems. So if you can be professional and keep a friendship, that's cool. But for me personally, I'd rather be more professional first. If a friendship comes from that, I'll take it. But if it doesn't, it's okay. I'm more of a person who is professional first, do the work first, and whatever comes after.
Just getting that balance.
I can see you there, so just sitting there, so quietly. I want to hear from you. What do you think about that? Can it work in the working environment?
Yeah, I think it can. Everyone, like your friends at work, can input to your business. Like if with me, I aspire to start my own business. Okay. So my friends who I worked with, they put in their creative designs to an idea.
So you can use it to your advantage in that sense.
Yeah, they come as a helpful, towards
You've got good friends.
the future. And, yeah, it's also good to keep a good circle as well, friends that are
healthy friends.
Healthy friends.
I've got a question.
Encourage you.
For example, I mean, do you find it hard to juggle? I mean, because we have so many different types of relationships, don't we? I mean, you've got your boyfriend or your husband or your wife or your, friends at work and everything else. I just want to know, how do you think, do any of you find that a problem, or do you find it harder to juggle all those different types of relationships?
I was gonna say about your working relationship, because it is a relationship. Whether you get on with the person or not, it's still a relationship. And you can be in a working environment and really not get on with somebody, and you're there like 12 hours a day, and it can prove to be quite exhausting.
Draining,
it can prove to be quite exhausting. Not every workplace has a great team. There's can always be someone in that team that is like a thorn in your side sometimes, So it can be quite difficult.
And you spend more time at work than
you do.
With your own partner,
you do.
Yeah.
But we have other, apart from work, we have other relationships.
Yes.
But you know what? Before we go to a break, because I know we're going to go to a break very shortly. I've got my producers like, we're going to go to a break. One thing I do want to ask you, and I want you to think about during the break, is, have you got into a relationship where there was a lot of friction, and what did you do in that relationship? Some of you are looking at me like, no, she didn't. Yes, I did. So we'll be back after this break, and I want to hear all the juicy details. Hi, Hi, on today's DKW show, we've been talking about problematic relationships. And just before we went to the break, I asked our lovely panelists, have they been in a situation or a particular relationship where there was friction, and how did they resolve it? So who's going to answer?
I'll go first. Actually, recently, a situation that happened. I had a really close friend, lives next to my house. Her friend came down to my workplace, and I work at a youth club. So we have a sports facilities. And there was a sports session going on, and he was being a bit rowdy. He was being a bit loud, he was overactive, and he showed a bit of disrespect to me in front of everyone. He showed disrespect to the session leader as well. And in my eyes, he was the guy that I usually went to ask for advice if I had to deal with something. So for me, it was more like, the tables are turned, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I was just like, okay, he's a really good friend of mine, but at the same time, what he did was way out of bounds. So
did that allow you to kind of lose a bit of respect for him?
Yeah, I was going to ask that.
The thing is, at one point, at first, I was like, I was upset because I expected more from him. I was disappointed. I didn't lose respect, but I was disappointed with his behaviour. So I sent him a message, and he calls me childish. So this he calls me childish. So I literally, in one letter, I laid it on him. I just sent her, I said, look, I'm not speaking to you as a friend, nothing like this. I'm speaking to you man to man. What you did was way outbound, and I told my friend that it can't happen again. It was just disrespect, completely. I had to.
That's good.
It is. I think it's the best way to always deal with friction and
to be
conflicts and to be honest with the person and be real.
Because men
tell
don't
them
always
as it
talk,
is.
and that's why I think I talk about this a lot to my male friends. If a man goes through a bad relationship, he doesn't always. What you just said was great, because a lot of men will just be like, oh, let's just give each other a bit of a hug or whatever. True. They don't even do that, but a lot of the time, some men do. But and that's why I think sometimes women do get over a relationship quicker, because we have our girlfriends.
Would you say that?
Yeah, absolutely. 110% of every man I've known has still held a candle. And the problem is they'll meet the next girl and have the same baggage from the next girl, to the next girl, to the next girl, and hold on to it rather than thinking it's not the same person.
I was going to say,
Krystal wants to say something. Do you want to take the bite?
You agree?
I agree with her that some
definitely.
men find it hard to let go of things that's happened in the relationship. They bring it on to the next relationship, and
has that affected your relationship with your friends?
and I guess that
now
probably
then?
stems back with the parents as well, like how they were when they were young, with the mum being mothery.
Well, speaking of relationships, you've got some stats on relationships that you can throw at them.
I want to just make a point. I think with any kind of conflict, and if you're going to go back to the person, I think it's very, very important, even for the viewers as well, that timing is really important. I think if you do have a conflict with anyone at all, I think that it's really important that you pick your time if you're going to address the situation. And I think it's always important to address the situation. Don't just leave it and bury it and think, be immature and not speak about it, which quite rightly you went and you spoke to him about it, which I think is the best thing to do. But I think it's very important, even with relationships, you have an argument with your partner, you're upset with him, but not just don't let it brew, but don't leave the argument. But you be assertive enough to go back at the right time to speak about it. Not when you're high-rated or when the person's maybe very, very upset. Like if you'd gone back to this guy when he was extremely upset or still in his hyper mood, maybe you would have got a completely different reaction. But maybe if you leave it a day or two and then once it's calmed down, you come back and say, you know what, the other day, blah, 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 you may get a better reaction and get some sense from him.
There's nothing like a good sleep. That's my mother used to always say, don't argue at night time. And it's so true, isn't it amazing? When you wake up in the morning, you think, gosh, I don't even know
it's
why
a new day.
It's good to have good sleep in it.
But actually, wait. Sorry. He had a lot more respect for me afterwards. We got, to be honest, I think with guys, although things like that happen, we get over it straight away.
Yeah.
So we got over it. But another thing I'd just like to say is, I think females carry as much baggage as guys do. The amount of time, I just
nowadays,
I have to defend.
No,
I mean, every man, but
You're not understanding what I'm saying. What I was saying is, of course, we're emotional beings. We've got all the hormones in the world, definitely. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying that women talk about it. Yes, we'll still have a cry and everything, but we talk about it so much. We've got that support. And so I might break up with someone, but I've got my bestie, so I'm having a relationship with her.
Bottle it all up.
Yeah, some men don't. So I've got some men, like my partner is amazing like that. He's like, sorry, he's going to kill me like thing with a girl.
Yeah.
No, sorry, it's not like that. It's very masculine.
Yeah. My husband's like that.
He's very passionate. He speaks his mind. He's great like that. So, but I'm just saying, out of the people I've seen, have really held on to it because they haven't had a buddy to talk it out, and then kind of kept it to themselves.
Yeah, but at the same time, I think so many women end up actually talking about things too much, and they end up over-analysing, and then they get so upset over something that actually was
so small.
It was so small, and then suddenly it's such a big deal because they've actually spoken about it too much, rather than actually just dealing with the situation in hand. They go and talk to all of their friends and go, well, what do I do? What do I do? What do I do?
And so you want to go,
yeah.
And on that note, we'll get back to our stats. Anyway, let's see what we have here. Some interesting statistics.
Okay.
And I'd like to hear your opinion on it. So the first one says, in the UK, 42% of marriages end in divorce.
That's really high. That's almost half.
Almost half.
My goodness.
Any comments on that?
Yeah.
I think one of the biggest things is that the way we're moving forward, the way we want to be enlightened in the way society thinks and everything. I think there's a disrespect for marriage or disrespect for relationships in general. So everything seems like it's more as if you can basically do anything you want and if everything is okay.
Taken for granted.
And you can always say this and this because nobody seems to ever be understanding of your situation. You seem to be the only one, but I mean, in my eyes, it just seems like it's going to get to the point where if marriage is being if you have no respect for marriages, then why get married to the first place? And then it just goes on from everything else. Then there's no point of relationships or anything. And I personally think that there are people that I think have good, strong relationships, and they're the ones that they keep their respect. They have that standard. They have their own standards. I'm not saying anyone's standard is wrong or right, but they have a set of standards they will stay by. Everyone nowadays has no standards.
You can't just give up on the slightest
they don't
argument,
work through that
you?
situation, do they?
Right, let's go.
Can I just say something on that point? Sure. As you know, the new law has been passed for arranged marriages. So when you say the stats, 42%, a lot of some of that, perhaps cultural aspects come into that as well.
Could be.
Because you don't know under what circumstances those people were actually married. So the fact that the new law has passed, perhaps that might implicate some of those stats going forward. And I think part of what you've said as well, Shad, is having mutual respect for individuals as well, and having that for your partner or your husband or your fiancé, or if you were divorced. And if you're married for a second time, you're liable to work at it even harder because you've obviously learnt lessons from that. And then you have all the in-laws coming at you, from every angle, and it depends what culture you're from. And that's a whole new topic.
Oh, wow. Come on, let's number 2. It says 34% of marriages are expected to end into a divorce by the 20th.
Anniversary.
So yeah, exactly. So by the 20th anniversary, you're likely to get divorced.
And what's the next step? Because I think there's some more here that are quite interesting that I want to throw at you guys.
Yeah, almost 25% of families in the UK are lone parents.
Right.
And it says that step families are one of the fastest growing family forms. 40% of all marriages are remarriages.
Wow.
For one or both partners. Wow.
We're just going to go to a break, but after hearing all of that, how does it reflect on your family and some of the conflicts that you might have encountered in your families and how you dealt with it? Did your family fall into one of those statistics, and if it did, what did you do? So that's what I'm going to ask. Think about it, and we'll be back after this break. Hi and welcome back to the show. So we had some shocking stats. I mean, 42% will end up in divorce. That is a high stat, and we had a range of other stats. Have you ever found yourself or found a family member or a friend in one of those stats? And was there any friction or conflict within those relationships that caused them to fall into that stat?
I have a few friends that have been in that situation, and one thing I must say is that when someone's going through a divorce or anything of that nature, it doesn't just affect the two people that are involved, but it affects everyone around them, because you might have built a relationship. For example, you might build a relationship with your friend's wife. Now, they're not together anymore. So now it's awkward, not just with them two. It becomes you and the wife that now have an issue, because they might see you as the friend.
Siding.
Exactly. And it just it's a spiral of just of madness. But I think in this country anyway, like I'm from Ghana, and the culture is a little bit different. Do you understand? But there were times when I saw my friends' parents divorcing. And not that I wished it happened to me, but sometimes I could see in my house that my mum and dad weren't really happy. And I could see sometimes, like, maybe when I was younger, maybe would it be better if they was living separately? Because I could feel the tension. And sometimes that's worse.
So would you say there's a big difference with your, I mean, you talk about family and your relationships with the family differently, but any of you can answer this, would you find that there is a big difference between how you manage your relationship with your family different to your friends?
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
Definitely. My parents separated when I was a teenager, and my mum remarried, and there was a lot of friction. There was a lot of fights. There was it was up and down all the time in the household till the very end. So it has an effect. It has a serious effect. Like he was saying, it doesn't just affect the two people who are separating or remarrying. It affects everybody around them, really.
So it would be different if it was like just a friend where you could just
you can walk away, can't you?
Yeah, with your family, you're actually stuck with your family.
Yeah. I just want to say there's some friends though that they stick closer to you than your family.
That's
very true.
Even though you might be blood related with someone, but I've got friends to meet, and it's funny because in the beginning I said my relationships that I value the most is my family, but when I think about it, it's not always that. I've got friends that stick closer to me than family. So when I had friends, I had a close friend who went through something similar, and I felt like I was going through it with him, and I could see how it affected him. The way it was affecting him, it was beginning to affect me. And I started to look at his ex-wife a certain way because of him, even though I didn't know I was doing it, but it started to have an effect on me. So I would say that sometimes you take things that happen with your friends closer than your family, because you can be closer. Because sometimes with families, you wanna, you don't want to disappoint them, or you want to make them happy, whatever. With friends, you're a bit more open.
Does anyone have a different spin on that?
No, I think
you all agree.
I agree, definitely. But I just want to touch on one other thing with marriage. It's really interesting because you're quite young. You're 30. Oh, okay. I thought you were younger.
So did I.
All of you like. I'm joking. And so I've got friends who got married a lot younger, and I think none of them are still married.
Really?
Yep. I'm the godmother to them. They've got big kids. Yep. And it's funny, I'm about to marry my partner, and I was engaged 10 years ago, but I'm the last one to actually get married, and it's going to sound so dreadful. I could almost bet everything I've got that we're going to stay together. I've waited a lot longer, had lots of relationships, and it's funny, but then there are success stories, like I was saying before, that someone can meet someone very young. But I think it's just that rushing into it. When you have had that life experience and you're a bit older and you waited a bit, I think you might have a better chance, I think.
See, I disagree.
Do you all agree on that?
Yeah,
Disagree.
Bianca disagrees.
Well,
okay, sure.
my experience with my family, my parents met when they were very young. They knew each other about 4 months before they got married.
Really?
And
So
they
4
have
months?
the most incredible relationship
definitely
still.
one that I
They're
like
so
that.
madly in love, and we have such a tight family unit that there are success stories, but it also makes my standards very high for a future relationship, because I see someone as needing to be able to, what's the word? Well, I see that the perfect relationship will be very successful from the beginning, and you don't necessarily need to wait years and years to find the perfect person, because I feel like you'll know when you meet them.
Yeah, I can agree with you.
Well,
Yeah.
I've got this comment here. It says psychologists. What
Psychologists.
Psychologists. I don't know. I can't read today. Psychologists say that you tend to find roles with your friends and people in the world that are very similar to the relationships with your family. You may be drawn to people who are dominant, like your mother, or you may take on the role that you play, like a daughter role with, I don't know, a male friend, for example. I really can't read today, don't know what's wrong with me. Or you may identify with certain people who have similar traits to your family members. So have you had friends that are very similar to like family members, or have you actually done the opposite of that, which is drafted or grafted to someone who's completely different to your family members?
Thank you. Actually, kind of, because there have been situations in my life where I'm either being trained by someone, or basically when I go to training and have a coach, or when I'm doing music where I work, my mentor, they seem to have the same personality, and reminds me of my dad, which was this very strict,
interesting,
that kind of thing, and I see it more. Yeah, I go into that role of more like I listen more, I pay attention more. Things like that. And I think the study you're talking about is monotropy. It's basically your first initial relationships affect your lifetime, and I can actually see as well, and as well with the type of girls I used to date, they were the complete opposite of my mom, because my mom was too soft for me. My mom was always loving, things like that. So the girls I used to date, it kind of I just went for these wild, crazy, angry, mischievous.
Wow, you want to even taste of a different world.
Yeah. So I think it's the whole idea of sometimes you might like it, but sometimes my mom was loving, but it wasn't what I needed. I needed a challenge. So that's why I was.
So you're still single at the moment.
Yes,
right. But
that's dangerous.
Are you going to? Do you think that you're going to marry this wild, crazy girl, or would you more go for mummy's home type of girl?
Yeah.
I think I'll find someone that has a balance. Someone
in
that has
between.
a balance.
That's a good answer.
That's the best part.
That's a good answer. I mean, Jen, we have some more stats I think would be really interesting.
I've got one. It says 1 in 7 adults in a long-term relationship don't believe that their partner is the one. Ouch.
Oh.
Yeah, I know. Another one says 73% who have made or said I do with their partner, it was because their true love slipped through their fingers.
Oh.
This is really terrible. That's where you're getting these stats from. And 75% of the adults said the definition of love that they have changed as they got older, but they are head over heels with their current partners. Now, would you say that's true?
Wow.
That's, and do you know what, Sam, before I go to them, would you say that's true? Because you've been married for quite some time and you've got a beautiful marriage. Would you say that's true?
I think
I'm so naughty.
you're putting me on a spin here, and I'm going to throw the question back to the panelists. I'm going to throw it back to the panelists because I want to hear from them. In a relationship, what do you really think that makes a relationship work? Because I mean, I can give it to you all about what makes a relationship work. Because I've had bad relationship, but I've also had a very good relationship.
Yeah.
So I kind of take the good from the bad and learn from what I've learned in the past. But I want to hear, what do you think? I want to hear from you. What do you think makes a relationship work?
Yeah. And are those stats true?
Okay, I'm not sure if the stats are true, but in my opinion, what makes a relationship work is mutual respect, having love, having an understanding, and probably being able to be supportive of each other's needs, whether it's personal, whether it's career-driven, whether it's for your family, and being supportive in all aspects, and also being able to be your friend, as well as just to being your partner. So, you know, like you say, you've got your best friend that you can go to your bestie and say,
that's what's working.
he's giving me a hard time. But the question is, you know, I don't know if the husband or the partner goes to his friend or if they keep that all within themselves. But to me, for your relationship to flourish, like you said, we equally have bad relationships and good relationships. But in my opinion, it matters about the respect is more important. Because I have seen relationships for friends and personal where respect has not been given, and that's probably been the downfall of probably from the start right down to the bottom.
When you say respect, define what you would say is respect, because respect for one person could be, look, you know, whenever she says something, I'm going to agree. Whenever he's angry, I'll just be the first person to say sorry. But then for someone else, it could be totally different. So what do you define as respect?
For me, respect in the understanding of, like you're saying, if you do speak, that you're listened to. They listen to you, they try to understand the nature of the problem, they assist you with solving a problem, and also if you're happy, they share your happiness with you. And I think it's like, we could go into levels of like, there shouldn't be abuse, because disrespect is no abuse now, whether that's physical abuse, mental abuse, we could talk on forever. You know, so like you said, for one person, respect could be the fact that when you phone your partner, they pick up the phone and they listen to you, and they don't say, cut the call, cut the call, cut the call. You know, it could be respect as in you want to come and talk about your family, or having a meal on the table in time, or housework. It could be down to anything, but it is difficult for me just to say for one person, and I think every relationship's different, and everybody will probably find how you find that balance of respect.
Yeah. Do you think that people nowadays even, that society gives up on their relationships far too easy nowadays?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. So I can see, Krystal, you wanted to say something.
I think they do give up on their relationship quite easily and fast, because it all draws down to communication with the partner. So if you're dating someone, it's good to talk about stuff. Any problems you see or you have, it's good to sort it out during that time when the problem is more like high at the point. So it's good to talk about the problems, good communication, and also to respect, as she said. Yeah. Respect is very important, to give each other space to breathe. So come back again.
Yeah, I
healthy
agree. I
relationships.
totally agree, and I must say that I think being assertive is so important, Jen, because I think with every relationships that we have, and you're speaking about respect, but respect doesn't mean that, you know, you cannot deal with a situation. You know, I respect that person, so I'm not going to hurt that person and give my true opinion to that person. And sometimes people slip into that mode.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes relationships are broken down because they're assertive in an aggressive way.
Yeah.
And I think aggression is never the answer.
Yes.
Yeah.
For me, the key to a good relationship as I've matured, not that I'm an old lady yet, but it's from my experience, is why I'm having a good relationship is because I like myself. It sounds really... I'm having a relationship, like... You've
got to love yourself first, isn't it?
You do. Yes. But it's like a confidence thing, and it's so funny because in my industry, I meet very beautiful girls that have the least confidence, like models especially, we have the least confidence, and they'll be with men that, you know, not treating them right. And it's because, I say this to all my girlfriends who've ever had a bad relationship, the first time someone treats you bad, that's it. You're doomed if you don't kind of command that respect again from the beginning. And you've got a look on your face. And another thing I used to always say to all of my female friends, one of my girlfriends used to say, my husband never tells me I'm beautiful. And I used to say, do you tell him? And because I knew them so well, because I'm very,
and do you believe you're beautiful yourself?
But she's also, but I used to say, you've got to encourage your partner and say, you look gorgeous today, you've been a great husband, and then you'll get it back. So you can't be telling them off and then expect...
I completely agree. I mean, we're going to go to break. We're going to go to break. I can tell, because it's getting very heated in the sense of loving yourself. And I think that is something that is very, very important. And we're going to talk more about that after the break. We'll be back. Hi, welcome back to today's DKW show. We've been talking about relationships and problematic relationships, all sorts, whether it be in the work, at home, with the family, or with the partner. We had some rather interesting stats, and the producers have given me more. I've got one here that says a study showed that those who had a large network of friends outlived those who had fewest friends by 22%. And in 1989, David Spielg, MD and Professor of Psychiatry for Stanford University, published a landmark paper, and it showed that women with breast cancer who participated in support groups lived twice as long as those who didn't. And they also had much less pain. And the last one here says, those who say they have no real friends at work have only 1 in 12 chance of feeling engaged in their jobs. And if you have a best friend at work, you're 7 times more likely to feel engaged in your job. Well, we've gone over a few of these already, but would you say that friendships help people to basically live longer? And we're not talking about relationships now, i.e. marriage or having a partner. We're talking about friendships. Do they help you to live longer? And can they help you progress in healing, as they were saying?
Well, mine is the breast cancer thing. My mother, they did a case study, I think I was saying on another show, on my mother. She had it 6 times, but full blown stage 4, which is like you've got a couple of weeks to live. We were pulled in, so that's why I love telling the story to anyone, because unfortunately everyone we know has had cancer, someone in their family. And I always say to people that it's amazing seeing my mum, who was told, like, we had a doctor throw the x-rays at my mum because she wouldn't have her breast removed. And she said, well, I'm going in a month, then why would I need to do that kind of thing? So, but it was amazing seeing this woman that was told, and just because Mum and I would sit there, I'd make her giggle, I'd talk about we talk about everything but the cancer. And she didn't want to be around people with cancer, so she was like, you're upsetting me, I don't want to talk about it. And she actually ended up getting over it every 6. It was so strange.
So she rejected the fact that she was told that she had it.
And she was really stubborn. And she'd go, right, how much is the parking? After having like a really big operation. And I remember another time she had an operation and she was supposed to be wheeled out. And my mum had high heels on and a jacket and red lipstick. And then another time she had shoulder pads under a nightie, like Joan Collins. And she's like, right, come in. And I was like, Mother, you're so glamorous. And there's all these other ladies that were not even a stage 2 who looked like they were going to die. Wow. And there's my mum that just went, no, and she was the worst. And then that just shows you just having me and having that support and giggling. It was amazing to watch.
So that was your family.
Amazing.
Do you think there's a difference between then the way how you act as a person that's your mum and you, and that's your mum acting, in front of friends and family. But do you think in general that you act differently in your personality, your character with your family than with your friends?
Yes, definitely. I think with your friends, there's less. Well, there's more pressure to conform. And different friends bring out different sides of your personality, whereas with your family, they've kind of got to accept you for who you are. There's not really a lot they can do about it. They're kind of stuck
in
with
some
me.
cases,
So I find that my family get to.
Does anyone else have anything to say about that? I mean, how important is friends to you?
Friends are very important to me because some things that I don't want to share with my family, I'll share with my friends, who are my close friends that I usually tell everything about. And they know me as a person, like, because we do share everything, like we go on holidays together and work together. So my friends are very helpful for me.
They can be like a stress relief, can't they?
Yeah.
You can go out, have a laugh, you've had a bad day, you've had a problem, you can go to your friends, you can relax, you can go on holiday, you can just let your hair down with your friends, can't you, really?
My friends, 2 of my best friends are like my lifeline.
Oh, really?
They're so supportive.
That's great.
And also, like, it's like my sister. I have a sister, but she's up in Glasgow, and I'm down in London, so none of my close friends are close to me.
Right.
So it's like on the phone or, FaceTime or whatever. But I think having some very best close friends have been so supportive, even through conflicts in your family, your career, your personal life. I've actually been able to go to them for advice where perhaps my family would be more judgmental because they would expect better, but your friends not judging you, and they see you as, okay, I can give you say, you know me best. It's been 20 years. I have a best friend. It's been 20 years.
Wow.
And she would probably put me in jail. But I could put her in jail too. Let's not go there. So it's having, it's being able to share secrets, being able to share some really, really personal detail. Like, who would you call if you needed that helping hand? Who could you trust? And I think a lot of my friendships are based on trust and loyalty. You know, and if
Very
somebody
important.
lets you down, then
You think twice.
yeah,
I mean, then, what do you think about the amount of friends then that you can possibly have this kind of trust with?
Yeah.
You know, can you just have a load of friends and have the same reaction with them, or do you keep a small network of friends? I mean, what's
small
your
inner circle,
spin?
an inner circle I call it, and then I call it the outer circle, and then you have general acquaintances that you might go to corporate functions or parties and events and meet a lot of people, but there'll only be key people in your life that are there to stay. And some people come in for a reason and then they leave, and some people are there to stay, and for me there's about two or three key people there.
So one question that I wanted to throw in there rather quickly was, how do you identify a toxic relationship within the friends, and how do you exit? What's the exit strategy for a toxic relationship?
Well, I think for a guy, it's usually just, you know, it's more.
Come on.
Yeah, it's more. I think it's just, if you're not, in my eyes, if if we don't get along, then the whole point of a friend is because you get along. So if we don't get along, then we're not friends, and I'm not going to be spending time with you. It's just, and it's not as in a rude way. It's just that equal thing of we don't enjoy spending time with you. We don't have a lot of likes. Therefore, it's just better for us to be distant. And I think that's how I deal with it, and it's just more straightforward. Rather, I've had that situation. I used to be in a position where I'd have like a lot of friends because I'd be trying to learn. I'd have friends that would dance, and I'd meet with the dancers, friends that meet with the musicians. But one thing I realised was, because I wasn't close to all of them, they were all talking behind each other's back about me, but about themselves as much as well.
Dear. Well, what are you going to be looking for then in friends? What are the qualities that you look for in friends? With him saying that,
I think over time, you get to know somebody over time. That's why I said to you that if you meet somebody, anything shrouded in respect can grow. So if you meet somebody, you accept them for who they are, you get to know them, and then eventually, if you become friends, your relationship is going to blossom. It's going to come. So I think in time, that's how you get to know somebody. It's never going to be overnight. It's going to take time. Like me personally, I only keep about 2 or 3 close friends.
Any other qualities? What other qualities do you look for?
I'm so sorry.
Are we running out of time,
Yeah, we're
Jen?
running out of time.
We need a great conclusion here, Jen.
It's been a great show, but you're talking about qualities, and I think the only way you can get those qualities out of a good friendship is by nurturing that friendship.
Yes.
And spending that quality time to get to know the person, because then you can bring out the good side of them, and they can bring out the good side of you. And if it is toxic, you can know how to plan your exit strategy and leave. But one thing I would say is, in order to nurture that relationship, you need to sacrifice. It's one thing to say, you should be like this, I want this, I want that, but you're not willing to put anything into that relationship, regardless of where it is. And another thing I wanted to say, something that our lovely Sabina pointed out as well, is you need to learn to love yourself. You need to have a good relationship with yourself. And what do I mean by that? It's understanding who you are as a person, because how can you expect someone to understand you if you haven't come to a conclusion about how you are? So that's what I would like to say to all of you DKWs out there. Make sure you know who you are. It's been a great show. I've thoroughly enjoyed it. Have you guys enjoyed it?
Yes, we have.
It was great to have you on, Sam.
Fantastic.
It was a pleasure.
Be a good friend of quality.
That's
a
it.
DKW friend, a DKW lover, DKW husband, wife. All the qualities,
We've had a fab time with you today. I hope you've enjoyed your Sunday afternoon with us, and we'll be back next week with another DKW show. Take care. Bye-bye.